Welcome into Emerald and Lilywhite. This is episode 47, and this is season 24-25 review. One of our favorite episodes of the season for sure. Always do a thorough preview, a thorough review. So we're here to just recap what maybe was Tottenham Hotspur's best season in 20 plus years. It, in my opinion, very much was, right? So we're here all to talk about that in full force, and we got the full crew. Speaking of the word full, been a minute since that happens. First, as always, with me, my co-host Max at Going Limbs. What's up, man?
Yeah, not too much. The season's is over. It's been a long year. So focus now is on transfers and building for next year. So that's always an exciting time of year. We got a bit of a break. No soccer right now. So yeah, good time to recap.
No doubt. The one thing we do have is a Champions League final tomorrow, which I'm a little bit more interested in because we will play the winner of that game in the UEFA Super Cup, which is just fucking sick to say. I've had a couple of conversations about the Super Cup and a few people who will, no one on this show, but friends of mine who shall remain unnamed, kind of poo-poo in the UEFA Super Cup. But that's a fucking European trophy. Get it in the cabinet. Anyways, we'll learn more about who the opponent is tomorrow. With us also becoming, as always now these days, right? Robbie at Robbie _light and Robbie Light on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. What's up, man?
Not a lot. It's the time of year where my screen time goes way up on Twitter because I can't stop opening Twitter to see what the hell's happening. So it's it's one of those days.
Transfer window, baby. We're going to talk about that for sure today. Also with us, Alex Chang, at Alex Chang, X with an A. X instead of an A. I cannot talk today, people. What's up, Chang?
What's good? Good to be back. It's nice to not have any more early morning disappointments. So,
no doubt. Plenty of those this season. And rounding out the crew, been a minute. The heavy hitter, we got him back on for the season review. We got Keagan at Keagan McMurray. Keagan, what's up, man?
It's good to be back. I feel like we're kind of right in the middle period of the end of the season and the beginning of the transfer window where it's all kind of excitement, but I'm ready to just be utterly disappointed by the lack of vision and investment in the club the next 2 months. But what are you going to do? I'm excited now.
We're going to talk about that too. That's going to be a fun conversation. Before we do that, though, it's a season review. We just want to have an open conversation about this season. The first thing I'll say to get this conversation going is on the very first episode of the season, which was the preview, we had a conversation. Would you take 17th place and the Europa League? And we all said resoundingly, yes, we would absolutely take that right now. And that fucking happened. So just absolutely wild. I'm pretty sure none of us actually thought 17th was on the table. We all thought the Europa League was possible, but none of us actually believed that we would finish 17th. We did, but we had the Europa League trophy. So I'm just going to kick it out to the crew. First of all, just talk me through the sheer just shock in that actually coming true, right? 17th place and a Europa League trophy. One of the craziest things that's ever happened, maybe since Wigan won the FA Cup and got relegated in the same season. This might even be crazier, but yeah, let's chat about that.
We're the only club that can make the hypotheticals that people do before the season a reality, and I hate it and I love it too. So,
absolutely, is it not just a very Spurs thing to have happen that we finally get that trophy monkey off of our back on the cusp, just finishing right outside relegation?
I mean, thank God. I mean, we have the most losses in Premier League history for a side that didn't get relegated, which is like pretty incredible. Shout out to Owafemi Martins, Wigan Athletic striker during that cup run, and Seattle Sounders legend. That's just always what I think about. But yeah, dude, I mean, it was an incredible season. It's probably like the craziest season. I don't know if a single club has had like a crazier season, like more of a roller coaster than what this season was. I mean, I think we were going down for the majority of it, but just to finish on that high of the Europa League, I mean, what can you say? Like, I'm sure we're all like floating right now. Like, it was an incredible season. For the fan base, although like the results, I do think like yeah, it just has to get better. I know we're going to get into like the future of the manager and whatnot. And I know like a lot of people in the fan base feel strongly right now, but yeah, you got to give Ange credit. Like he delivered the trophy. That was his job. And at this point, like we can't care too much about what happened otherwise this season. I think that's more for something for next year. But overall, it was, yeah, fantastic season.
Yeah, honestly, finishing 7th, let's say probably 8th now, but finishing 8th or 17th really doesn't change anything, right? You miss out on Europe, you miss out on Europe. So, yeah, I think looking back, I'm not going to think about the fact that we finished 17th at all. I'm just going to think about the fact that we won the Europa League.
I don't know what I was going to ask this earlier. What is more surprising, honestly? Are we more surprised we won a trophy, or are we more surprised we finished 17th?
I think 17th is absurd. Like that is so bad. Like that's like incredibly bad.
I mean, yeah, I don't disagree, but I also think, I know we talked about this all season, but like what, 22 losses, 17, 18 of them were by 1 goal. And like, let's flip the meter here. If we drew half or more of those losses, do we feel any better? Like even if we had 12 losses, 10 draws, like do we feel any better or any worse? Like I don't draws never move the needle for me, but I know it's a big deal to get a point. But I think that was just it was the unfortunate early part of the season was Ange not adjusting and us having a high line and conceding late. And then end of the season was just, well, we're throwing the league in the bin. So, but yeah, I mean, there's an alternate universe where Tottenham drew half of those losses and maybe we finished 11th, and I don't think it changes anything. So,
it's a good shot.
Yeah.
I think only Liverpool was the only team, I think, other than for actual league games, Liverpool, and maybe towards the end there was one more. I guess it was who did we lose to 2 weeks ago? Those were the only teams to beat us by more than 1 goal. Palace, I think.
Palace cooked us. Brighton cooked us.
Brighton, and then Liverpool beat us 6-3 or whatever. But all the other losses that were by multiple goals were in cup games, I think. Maybe there's one other loss I'm forgetting, but almost every other loss was 2-1, 3-2, 1-0. Like super uninspiring, but they were all 1 goal losses.
Oh yeah, Villa.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Ange came out in his post-match interview after the Europa League final and said, I'm paraphrasing big time, but he said we kind of threw the league in the second half of the season, right? We saw that we had an opportunity in the Europa League. We all believed it was achievable. I pretty much threw the league. And I think Ange doesn't strike me as the type of person who would say that if there weren't some truth to it, right? I think he would come out and just say, yeah, we didn't have a great showing in the league. It is what it is. We won a cup. But I don't think he brings that up if there's not some semblance of truth to that. Does anyone disagree?
I mean, I believe it. I just don't really understand it, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like our second team or whatever was playing is not like a 17th place team to me. Like, but it just felt like, I don't know. I just don't get that because like I understand rotation, but like we can still have tactics, right? It just felt like towards the end, like there was just literally like no like thought being even put into like what we were doing. Like it was just like, oh, go out there and then we would just get cooked. So like I guess that makes sense to a degree, but I don't know. I just don't get. I just don't understand like how you can throw the league like and just play like so completely different or like with no structure whatsoever for like no reason. I guess like I understand that the players are worse, but it was just like it was kind of strange to see the drop off because some of those players were playing in the Europa League as well, and they just look completely different. So it's probably like a mentality thing as well there. So I feel like it was like probably a collective decision, and then just like no one cared in the league, which I don't know if that was good, but it did get the job done this season. However, I think for next season, like that's not I don't know. That's just not something that I hope like continues. Like I know it's obviously way better to win trophies, but like I don't know about like the mentality that the league doesn't matter at all. Like if I hope that was just like a one season thing and that we can kind of right the ship next year and have like a better season in the league.
Well, I think you have to.
I think it will be.
I think you have to assume also that you're not going to be working with like 9 to 13 first team injuries for like 4.5 months of the season.
I thought it was more jarring at the end of the season, like towards the end of the season, like when we're really getting the Europa League run in. Obviously, we're focusing on that, but it was like we didn't even try in the games. It looked like we didn't even have like players given 100% out there.
Well, it's a slippery slope because at the end of the season, we're like, then you're that close to winning the Europa League and you're sitting in 15th to 17th place. And then like your position in the table and the fact that you're like so close to the Europa League, just like, even if Andrew's not actively telling them, don't try, like save your energy for the Europa League, you're just going to naturally do that. I feel like 'cause every week you're thinking about next Thursday rather than the game on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it was just like the fact that we were like already putting out a second team. You think like the guys that are holding bench during Europa League would like have something to prove, but like I don't think any of them, like that was a real chance for like a lot of players to like show us something. I'm thinking about like Wilson Odobert, like Tell, even like this guy's auditioning for his next contract, right? And like I didn't see anything like particularly like bright from really anyone. Like Archie Gray was playing in the midfield, like he looked way out of his depth there, and it was just a lot of players that I thought like maybe had something to prove, and I was kind of excited to watch those games because we got to see different players that I was confused as to like how little like passion they were showing for the league, despite like the fact that they weren't playing in the Europa League either. Like I totally get that for like the starters that were playing in the Europa League. Yeah, dude, I don't give a fuck. Like you can do like put zero effort into the league, but for the guys that are like in and out of the team, I was kind of expecting a little bit more. So I'm wondering if it was just like a collective like squad like agreement that like, okay, we're putting 11 dudes out there. They kind of just get to run around and we lose 3-1 or whatever. But I mean, I can't complain too much. Like we did win the Europa League, but I wanted to see a little bit more from those fringe players, especially the younger guys, which I didn't really see overall this season that much outside of like Lucas Bergvall, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I would never fault like any effort that I saw in those matches. Like I think players were going for it, but I think what happens is, first of all, there's nothing to play for, and that does factor in. I mean, this is their job. Obviously, way fucking cooler jobs than any of us. Sorry to speak for everyone, but cooler than me for sure. It's their job. And again, there's nothing to play for. Now, that's never an excuse, but I think you add that on top of the rotation. You've got Ben Davies coming in at center back, and no disrespect to Gentle Ben, right? Then you've got Archie Gray at the 6, who is just not up to snuff when it comes to playing the 6 at this level yet, and massive yet with that comment, right? Because I think he will get there for sure. I think it'd be a really, really good 6 in the Premier League, but still young. And then all that rotation, like I just think that was a lot to ask. And I think that's some of where Ange says he threw the league is like, if you're going to rotate 7+ guys, it's probably not going to look very good, and I think that's a lot of what we ran into this year too.
Yeah, and I'll bring it up again later when we're talking about like transfer targets, but we have the data of 2 seasons worth now of when this team plays without Mickey Van de Ven and Christian Romero, what that record looks like versus when we play with Mickey Van de Ven and Christian Romero. Mm-hmm. We need center backs. We need 4 starting quality center backs, and we have 2 that are very injury worthy, and one of them might be leaving the club. So, I mean, Danso, great guy to come in here, but still not Romero. And yeah, I mean, again, we see that even including the entire back 4 plus Vicario. We've seen the data of what this team's record is when Vicario, Porro, Udogie, Van de Ven, and Romero start versus when they don't. Our win percentage is like 70% when they all start, and it's terrible when they don't. And Mickey, and rightfully so, Mickey and Romero didn't play in any of those Premier League games, so that we lost towards the end of the year.
Yeah, but to build off of that, like, how do you expect to attract like 4 starting quality center backs when you can only play 2 of them like at one time? Because I think at a certain point, like there has to be some type of drop off between your starters and your bench players, because no one who considers themselves like a starter is gonna want to go and like sit 3rd string, sit 4th string.
Especially here, dude.
Yeah.
They will for enough money, but we don't pay those types of wages.
We're not gonna amass that like type of like quality. Like my dad was kind of saying the same thing, where it's like, oh, you need like so many quality center backs, but how do you get them there, and how do you get them to stay there, stay happy, type thing? Like even Dragishin, bro, Dragishin's ass, and he like doesn't even like being 3rd string. So it's like, how do you expect?
His agent doesn't like that.
He thinks he should be playing for Real Madrid, bro. I mean, maybe like they're U21s, but like, dude, like you literally just cannot attract, I think, that many center backs. And I think Danso is like probably like the higher end of the spectrum for a backup, to the point where he's happy being a backup, but he's also like a good enough player to like fill that gap. And I think like to build off of that, like the fact that you can't attract this many quality center backs shows that like at some point you have to adapt your tactics to like, oh, I don't have Romero, oh, I don't have Van de Ven, like I can't run this high line. And I think for a while, Ange, he was like trying to fit square pegs and round holes in the type of way that you think like you're playing Ben Davies and Dragishin in a high line where they just cannot keep up. So I think like it's not so much as like obviously I'd love it if we could just buy a bunch of center backs and just keep them in our back pocket like when we need them. But I think it's more about like, can Ange adapt his tactics to fit like some of these quote unquote lower quality players, bro?
And I think he can. I think despite like us having Romero and Van de Ven, the Europa League running, like we were not playing Ange ball like that. That's not like how we played. So I think that is the most optimistic sign that I've seen from Ange, like probably in his entire tenure, that despite what we looked like in the league, he showed us that he can adapt. He actually can. His refusal to earlier in the season is still a little bit weird, because it's like, maybe if we played a little bit more pragmatic when our Europa League games were against Karabag and we could actually focus on the Prem, then we could have had a better season and been in a better position like come the springtime. But I know we had a lot of injuries. And I also think that I agree with Chang. We can't sign like 4 center backs that are going to be equal quality. That's just not how it works. Like we're not Manchester City, Real Madrid. But what we can do is sign young center backs. And I think that that's the route where we can try and have young players have like at least like almost as much quality or the potential to be as good as these players. That's definitely the route you need to go to, because they'll be happy to be backups at this point when they're like 19, 20 years old. Luka Vuskovic is a great example of that. So I think he'll be helpful next year. And then lastly, I do think that Scott has brought this up many times. Like if we continue to play this system that Ange plays, Romero and Van de Ven are continually going to get injured every season. And that's just the reality of playing this way. It's so taxing on the center backs to play in a system that we've seen with a high line like that, that they are going to get hurt. And I feel like when we adjusted to the mid block a little bit more in the Europa League run-in, there was definitely less injury risk for those guys.
Yeah, it's a good shot. I would argue that all 4 defenders make more sprints or create more sprints than the 2 wingers in this system, and that's probably incorrect, but it feels that way, and I think it speaks to the point that you're making, right? That the system does factor in here. I think Chang took us to where I think we need to go, which is, what comes next, the bigger conversation here around incoming signings. Max, you're kind of carrying on with that. Before we do that, though, I just want to ask one question, and again, we don't need to have a conversation here, but speak up if anyone must. Is there anyone who doesn't think this is the greatest season that they've been a part of since they've been a fan of Spurs? And I'm 11-12, so I don't know exactly off the top of my head when everyone became a fan, but for me personally, easily the greatest season I've ever been a part of. Is there anyone who feels differently?
No.
No, and I would say, like, if the Champions League final season came close, but the traumatic way that they lost that match, like, because it was over a minute into the game, like, that just, like if it would have been a close, thrilling game, like, maybe that still would have had some power, but no, like, that game was, I was in a bar, like, it was just, like, a minute in, you knew the game was over, and it was like, oh my God, this is over. So that was tough. But yeah, winning a trophy, I think, is the easy answer of, like, nothing else beats that.
Yeah.
And a European trophy. This, like, if you said, let's say we won the League Cup, was this season greater than the Champions League run? I'm like, I got to think about that.
No way, dude.
Yeah,
No.
I said that at the beginning of the season. My greatest fear was our first trophy would be the Carabao Cup, and everyone would find a reason to just shit on it. Like, it just like that, because no one. I always make this joke to my friends too. Like, it's the I don't care about it cup. Like, it's like, it's just a. I mean, I don't know why it's less stellar and meaningless than the FA Cup, but it just feels that way. It just feels way less important. Like,
it's just new and like, and weird.
Yeah.
I think, like, if we won the Carabao and got, like, third, like, I mean, that would be better than 2019. Winning the Carabao, getting 17th, and then we just got mogged by Crystal Palace. Like,
yeah. Well, Ange would be sacked already if we won the League Cup and finished 17th, and that was it, I think. We'll get to that too, but yeah, I mean, I think in the order of importance or, like, magnitude of cups available to us, I would say Champions League 1, Premier League 2, and that's definitely debatable. One you call it 1A, 1B, right? And then third, I think, is Europa League, and then fourth probably the FA Cup. So you're
saying
won,
we peaked?
Oh, no, not at all. Now, I personally, and we're not going to get into this, but I think the Champions League would be easier to win for us than the Premier League.
For sure, dude. Look at the final this year.
Yeah, exactly. So the Premier League is interesting because we're talking about the season. Maybe the last little thing we can talk about here is, if I'm Ange, I come into the situation, I say, I don't think we can win the Premier League. We don't have the depth. I'm looking at my competition and the depth they have. I mean, Chelsea even. My goodness, right? And I think we don't have the depth over 38 games, but I know how to win cup competitions. We won the Europa League. We got to the semifinal of the Carabao Cup. And at the time, I think Liverpool was the most informed team on the planet when we came up against them in that semifinal. Beat them in the first leg, right? So we were close. And then the FA Cup, I think we only got beat by Villa in the manner that we did because we had just, like, our balloon had just been popped in the Carabao Cup. And we were super injured. That team we played against, Villa, should not have beat Villa on paper, right? So anyways, I think that if I'm Ange, that's how I look at the situation, and I think he acted accordingly. But yeah, that takes us into the bigger conversation around what comes next. Chang got us started there. We're going to talk about Ange for sure, but I think we should continue along the path of this conversation around incomings and what we can expect. I think you make a great point, Chang, that we don't pay the wages required to attract real quality depth, right? It's not, but we have all these fucking bonus incentives and blah, blah, blah. I've said it before on the show. Our biggest issue as an organization is our wage structure. And once we finally break that, which takes time, like, one domino falls and then they all have to follow shortly after that, right? And that can be challenging, but we need to break the wage structure to be able to compete when it comes to depth. But the center back conversation is really important. So let's start there again. We have Danzo. We've talked about that, but left center back, Chang, that's a problem. If Mickey Van de Ven goes down, Ben Davies is not the guy anymore. So, what are your thoughts around what that looks like, Chang?
I think, we do need to get a left-footed center back. I like Hincapie from Bayer Leverkusen, and I think since, like, everybody's rating them at the moment, I think, like, he'd be a good. He's kind of a little bit under the radar. Like, you think Bayer Leverkusen, you think, like, Wirtz, Ta, Frimpong, obviously, all been snatched up, but he's left-footed, he's fast on FIFA, and he's a left back, I think. So
he's linked to Atleti.
Dude, fuck them, bro. They can't. Dude, I hate them.
Taking all our players, bro. What is
it? Offered $39 million for Romero. That's freaking less than we paid for him.
The report was Atleti don't think Romero is going to materialize. The plan B is Hincapie.
But yeah, I think it honestly puts us in an awkward conversation about what is like the Tottenham pull at the moment, because we saw like Cardoso obviously already ruined my mood for the transfer window. Like they have like investments in it. Like he asked us not to buy him. Like how fucking disrespectful is that, dude? That's honestly insane. And like we can sit here and be like, yeah, we have Champions League football, but I think a lot of these players, and in a way, like rightfully so, they look at us and they like think we're gonna bomb out. So it really just puts us in like how meaningful is Champions League football like to this club, one, and two, like how far are we gonna go, and three, like does having Champions League football like really attracts players like to Tottenham specifically?
I think it does, but it's just like the manner in which we achieve like that's another like thing about finishing 17th. Like we just finished 17th and won the Europa League. I feel like when you finish third and make the Champions League, you're like, oh wow, this team's like a serious team. And then when you're 17th and you're in the Champions League and you're looking at other teams like Atleti who are in the Champions League and competing for La Liga and competing for trophies, like we did just win a trophy, but it's just like we also kind of like backdoored our way into the UCL. So I don't know how passionate players are about this project when they saw what we did this year in the league.
Yeah, Keagan, what do you think about that, man? What's the Spurs poll right now?
I think it's difficult for sure. I know like one thing that I'd think about is like I know Matters was doing some couple interviews after, and he was kind of talking about the banter that he got on Twitter about like, oh, he just like when he signed for Spurs about, oh, he retired from winning trophies. Like I wonder how much that plays on the mind of players, or how much it has in the past of like, oh, do I want to go somewhere where I'm going to get constantly bantered for not winning trophies and kind of like that Spursy tag, but like that is now off our back too. Like I wonder how much that changes our poll as well. Like this is a club that can win trophies. We've seen it in person. We've seen it very recently now. And I think that like that could be part of the poll too, is like this is a club that doesn't have that monkey on their back anymore, and I won't get bantered for like retiring from winning trophies. But yeah, I think the UCL has to be a poll. But I think what's difficult is like I just like can't believe that Man United already have like a massively more impactful signing than we do, and like in Mateus Cunha, and like I would have been sitting here so distraught if we had lost the Europa League final, literally thinking like I have no idea who we're going to sign this summer. We have zero pull, and like I feel relatively confident that we have pull. We just have to find the right players. Like I think that we can get a player of like Eberechi Esse's caliber. I think that we can lure a player of Leroy Sané's caliber and sign him on a free if we're willing to pay the wages. Like I think that there is a pull and there is a player out there. There are players out there of really high quality and star quality that we have the pull for. But I think that it is kind of a caveat that we finished 17th and it feels like we kind of backdoored or we're slightly uncompetitive.
Yeah, the players often talk about how massive of a club Spurs is, and I think as fans sometimes we forget about that because we're just constantly berated for being Spurs fans, right? And it's in London, which I think does factor in. Now, Palace is also in London, and West Ham's also in London, and I get it, right? London doesn't mean everything, but it does factor in somewhat, I think, in the right scenario. Hugo only stayed at Spurs because his wife loved London, right? So it can be a factor, but I agree with you. If there was no Champions League, I'd be super nervous about what comes next. The other piece of all of this is Ange, and Robbie, I'll come to you for this. I think you've talked about this at some point, but Ange, we now know when he's having conversations with Van de Ven and having conversations with Matters, and the list goes on. Vicario, he's talking about how he only wants players that are willing to like stand up to all of that, the media, the Spursy tag, and win a fucking trophy, and just brush all that aside and get it done, right? Who has the right mentality to do that? I think that Ange probably pulled some of the guys who factored in massively into this campaign to Spurs with that mentality. So that has impact. It has weight. And now we're going to start talking about Ange. Is he still around? There might be some guys here, and this is my question, Robbie, or talking point, is there's probably some guys on this team who want to play for Ange, right? And may not even want to be here through another reset and another restructure, right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw pretty in no uncertain terms on Twitter this week that Romero has apparently said his fate is tied to Ange's fate, and if Ange is gone, he's gone. So, and I don't know if that impacts a lot of other people, but I think you guys all probably saw this too. But there was the James Madison golf tournament or whatever, where him, Archie, Bergvall, I think Van de Ven, I don't remember who else, but they all basically said, "I want Ange to stay." When asked in an interview, like he better, they didn't say he better stay, but they were like, "I want him to stay." But yeah, no, I think, and I read a bunch of articles today, and they were bringing up the, I don't know if it was when Levy took over, but it was the transition from Harry Redknapp to the Villalobos season, where another person came in the Tottenham hierarchy and they shook everything up. And they were comparing that to the Vinay Venkatesham, who I believe is starting June 1st. It also sounds like all signs are pointing towards Fabio Paratici coming back and having an even higher role than before. And that apparently Fabio is the one pushing for Inzaghi from Inter, which he's Italian. Wow, I guess that's a surprise. But yeah, I guess I'm just getting more and more nervous every day that nothing has been said because of that. And especially, we have this whole new structure taking over. And I even read the article that Alistair Gold published on football.london today suggests that Daniel Levy is stepping back, like very much stepping back to allow Vinay Venkatesham to take over, so that he's basically not going to be in charge of football decisions anymore. And, when a new guy comes in, it's true in American sports, especially when a new guy comes in, they like to make their mark and bring in their coach, their guy, their whatever. So I do think that this is a massive turning point for Tottenham. And in my opinion, this would destroy everything we just built if we get rid of Ange. Again, I know that he should be on thin ice, but all of these players are bought in. All of the energy, all of the vibes are behind him. It feels like he, honestly, from the attention that Ange took in the media, from everyone, from us at times, like he was the one that ripped all of these layers off the club, the stink off this club. And if we fire him after winning a trophy, it feels like a fucking curse waiting to happen, where we're not going to win another one for 100 years. And it'll be the Ange curse, and it'll be the, whatever. And again, maybe he ends up stinking up the league and we fire him mid-season, but like we gave him a run, like, I don't know. I'm at that point of like, if he stinks it up, sure, we'll fire him. But right now, I don't see why we would. And I'm getting nervous every day that we haven't said we're keeping him. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think the only thing that was brought up to me in that regard that I think is worth sharing was, the club has no reason to come out and say Ange is staying because he's under contract. So I think and again, I'm with you. I think they need to come out, but again, someone in a different group chat pointed out to me that and this person tends to be just like super pragmatic and abrasive and a bit of a pain in the ass at times, but he just said, quit trying to make a big deal out of nothing. He's under contract, blah, blah, blah. But there is some truth to that. I also think that, and he brought this up, this person, and I think it's another good point, that if you open that can of worms, it just kind of validates the media constantly talking about it all season. And then if you come out and say he's staying, it probably invites more and more of that conversation, where if he's just under contract and we come out at the beginning of next season and somebody says to Ange, it was kind of quiet on all fronts about your tenure at Spurs. He says, well, I'm under contract. What's the big deal? I think that maybe keeps things quiet too. So I don't know, but I'm with you, just playing devil's advocate here. I think the club needs to come out and I want a big old trophy picture and him screaming into the camera like I'm going nowhere. That's what I need right now from the Spurs admin.
Yeah, I think he definitely deserves to start the next season as Tottenham manager. It would be one thing if Simone Inzaghi was outwardly campaigning to be our manager. I don't know if I would say no to that at this point. But he's not. Inzaghi said today, he's pretty happy at Inter. He has a UCL final tomorrow. I don't know if that has any impact on his job prospects, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, if it's not Inzaghi, then I don't like. Then I'm not. Yeah, I'm with you guys. There's no reason we should sack Ange. If Inzaghi is like, I want Tottenham, like this is the project I want, then like I'd be inclined to give him the project, to be honest. But I think Ange definitely deserves to start next season, unless a manager of that caliber is like wanting to take over, and I don't think they do. So yeah, give him next season. If we're bottom half by Christmas, he's gone anyway. So I just think, yeah, he deserves to prove himself in the first couple months next year.
I think that Daniel Levy's proven over the past 20 years that he's like pretty reactive and pretty in tune with like his reputation with the fans. And I think that this would just shatter his reputation with the fans. Like this firing Ange would be so unbelievably unpopular. And I think that he has to know that at this point. Like obviously if he would have fired Ange a month ago, that would have been a different story. But like at this point, the togetherness that the fan base feels after winning the Europa League is like nothing I've ever seen before. Like there's Tottenham fans wearing Tottenham jerseys all over Seattle that I'm seeing now. Like it is totally different. And that togetherness is a direct result of Ange winning us the Europa League. And I think that if Levy were to fire him, that would be the most unpopular thing he could possibly do. And I think that he has to know that. He has to know that we all want to, that all this momentum is a direct result of Ange. So it's very clear to me that he needs to be the manager for at least the start of the next season. Like there's no guarantee that if we hire somebody new that they're going to have a great start to the season. It's just a total restart. We have all this momentum behind Ange, and we have to I feel like we have to at least try and capitalize on it. So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, Ange has earned everything that should be coming to him. I completely agree with everyone. Keagan, Robbie for sure saying that the momentum completely halts if you sack Ange, and he clearly knows how to win cup competitions. And I don't believe we're going to win the Premier League in the next 5 years. Call me a pessimist, it's fine, but I do firmly believe that we can win a couple of cups along that 5-year journey. If just a hypothetical, somewhat random length of time here when I say 5 years, but just say hypothetically over the next 5 years, I think Ange could win us a couple cups and maybe we compete for a Premier League title, but I'm not expecting it. And after this experience, I'm okay with FA Cups, Europa Leagues, Champions League runs. Maybe, I'd love to snag one of those Champions League trophies at some point, but give me FA Cups, Europa Leagues, and push for top 4, and I can stay happy for a little while. And I think that's kind of the natural progression of the club if you're not going to be taken over by a nation state, right? I could live with that.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So let's say we keep Ange. What position, let's say we keep Ange next year, we don't win anything. Like, what league position would he have to get to stay?
Champions League for me.
I agree. So the expectations for him next year, that's where I'm okay with keeping him, because I feel like everyone's sort of aligned. Like, if he doesn't win something next year, or if he doesn't get UCL next year, then there's not really enough there to warrant us continuing on. So I feel like it's totally okay to he's earned himself another year to prove himself. And I think everyone understands that if he doesn't perform to our standards next year, then he's not going to be here anyway. I feel like there's no point in blowing it up now when you can just wait and see, because this year was extenuating circumstances.
Yeah. I don't know. The only thing that I keep coming to, and you brought this up, Max, is Inzaghi. And that's the one name who I think forces you to have a really long, thorough conversation. If you're Levy, with whomever you need to be having a conversation with, probably Paratici, probably Vengatasham, if I'm saying that correctly. Inzaghi came into Inter in 2021 when they had, I think they were 8th or 9th place. They had absolutely no budget and said, we can only sign players on freeze. So I don't know. I'm not very hopeful if I'm walking into that situation. And in those 4 years, he has 2 Serie A's, 2 Copa Italias and is on the verge of the Champions League. I mean, if he wins
finals,
two UCL finals too. So if he wins 5 major trophies in his 4 years at Inter, like that's a serious fucking thing.
I'm taking him this summer if he wanted.
Because if he's sorry to interrupt you, but if he's leaving now and you don't act, you may miss a very unique window. There's not a whole lot of opportunity for him. And the grumblings out of Italy are that he is going to leave Inter, but he's not going to come out and say that the 2 days before a Champions League final, right? But look, they are the oldest average starting 11 in Europe's top 5 leagues. Like that is a true statistic. They're number 1 on the list of oldest starting 11s in the top 5 leagues. I think he knows the cycle's over. They didn't win Serie A this year. Juve's strengthening, Napoli's strengthening, De Bruyne is going to Napoli, Atalanta's continuing their progression, which side note, Gasperini is probably going to Roma, which is absolutely crazy. But anyways, I think Inzaghi knows the cycle's over at Inter. It has to be. I mean, who wants to try to do it again with like a bunch of 35-year-olds? And I'm 36, so no disrespect to people in their mid-30s, right? But we all know how the game works. So anyways, I heard this morning on Morning Footy that Al Hilal was in conversations with Inzaghi. And if he's leaving Inter and the Saudi Pro League is attracting interest, that means Real Madrid's not, Atletico's not, Barcelona's not, Bayern's not, City's not. You guys get my point. The list goes on, right? I think maybe the only club who would sack their manager for Inzaghi is Chelsea. So that's something that's in the back of my head at this point in time, but that's really it. So if he's interested in coming to the Premier League, which he said multiple times, he's very interested in managing in the Premier League before his time as a manager is up. I'm ranting here, but I look at the back 3. I think in Van de Ven, Danzo, and Romero, you've got a pretty juicy back 3 for him to run with, and he plays a 3-5-2. At wingbacks, you have Porro and Udogie, who are excellent wingbacks. You've got Sarr, you've got Bergvall, you've got Bentancur. They can all play in a midfield 3, I think. Madison as well, right? Even Kulusevski, I think, could play really well in Inzaghi midfield. And then up top, you've got Solanke and Son, maybe even Richarlison as well. But I think Solanke and Son, even Brendan Johnson, I've talked about him in a front too, thinking that would be actually pretty solid. So my point is, I think there's a very attractive enough squad for a manager like Inzaghi to be interested. So again, I want Ange. I think Ange needs to be the manager going forward, but I'm just saying Inzaghi is the only name on the planet who I would have a conversation around if it were to present itself.
Yeah, and we don't need to talk about this too much, but I think rewinding like a month and a half, 2 months ago, when everyone was like Frank and Silva and all these, like all of those names to me are in the trash. Like if now that Ange won a trophy, why on earth would we make a sideways or below move to hire Thomas Frank or Silva, or I don't even remember the other names. Iraola. Oh my God, I was never high on him, but after Bournemouth steamrolled their season, I was just like, why was he ever a discussion? And I'm probably alone on being so low on Iraola. I know some of you guys were high on him, but I was not a fan there. And then well, what's his name? I know it was a joke, but Vincenzo Italiano or whatever his name is, he just re-signed with his club. So yeah, there's just like, we're going to get caught with our pants down if we fire Ange, and then Inzaghi's like, I'm staying. What the hell do we do? You know? So it's a lot to risk.
I agree with you. Anyways, anything else anybody wants to say about the Ange of it all? I do want to talk about transfers a little bit too, you know, what we think we need, but is there anything else that anybody wants to get off their chest around Ange?
Nah, let's roll transfers.
We can go to awards and maybe talk about transfers after.
Yeah, that works for me. I'm going to pass it over to you, Max. I know we want to talk about not only who we all gave these awards to, or again, I can't talk today, boys, but who we all projected or anticipated maybe the award winners in these categories, and then we'll have conversations about who we actually think should be winning that award. But yeah, I'm going to kick it over to you.
All right, yeah. So back in August, we did our season predictions on this podcast, and we had categories. So I'll just get right into it. First category, was Young Player of the Season. Yeah, so at the beginning of the season, I had Bergvall, Chang had Bergvall, Scott had Bergvall, Keagan had Udogie. So yeah, what do we think? Who do we think was the Young Player of the Season this year?
And I will throw this out there too. Robbie was not regularly joining the podcast at this point in time, so there won't be a projection or prediction.
Yeah,
rather.
I was just thinking in my head. I was like, if at the beginning of the season, I probably would have wanted to say Archie Gray just based on his hype. I'll throw in my what I think I would have said.
Yeah. Good job. Yeah. So yeah, three for Bergvall though. Keagan, walk us through the Udogie pick if you can recall.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure that I remember why I said that. I don't think that was a bad prediction at this point. Like
No.
I just think that the hype of Bergvall obviously gives him that award, and I think that's like the correct pick, and like the correct winner of the award currently. But Udogie had an amazing season, I thought. Yeah, I was impressed by him all throughout. So not a bad prediction, but just for some reason didn't predict how good Bergvall was going to be.
Yeah, to build off of that, I think I'm not sure if I would classify Udogie's season as like impressive throughout. I think that he low-key had a sophomore slump for a little bit. Last year he was kind of getting like best left back in the Prem, like shouts, and even as like a shameless Tottenham endorser, I couldn't really like back that up this season. Like I couldn't look at Udogie and like truthfully think that he was the best left back, or even like honestly for a period of time like top 10. I think he like fell out a little bit, obviously dealt with injuries. And enough about Udogie. I think the Bergvall pick was looking pretty bleak for a little bit, honestly. He had a super like tough start to the season. Like at the beginning of that Europa League run, remember that Dragishin red card? Bergvall hooked like 10 minutes in or something crazy, crying on the bench. And I think like at that point, Bergvall's stocks were honestly at like an all-time low. So for him to really bounce back from that, and I think that he did show glimpses of like his immaturity. I think got caught on the ball a little bit sometimes, and he did have his moments. Obviously, Vicario definitely let him know throughout the season, but ended the season great. Thought he was like our best midfielder, honestly, and I think going into next season, he will be like one of the first names on the team sheet for me. So,
yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, it was Lucas. It was Archie for a good portion. And then back half of the season, like Bergvall, it was clear that he was like a starter on this team. And Gray was more of a depth piece at that point. So, yeah. Our next category was breakout player this season. We had some good picks here, some bad picks also. Keagan had Spence. I think that could be it. That could very well be. Scott had Brennan, could also be it. I had Rodrigo Bentancur. I don't know why I said that. I mean, I feel like some of you guys might say, oh, that was a good pick. I think that's an awful pick. But at the end of the day, I guess he had a pretty good season. I guess I thought he would at the beginning as well. And then Chang had Will Langshear. So I don't know, kick him off the podcast, do whatever you want. This is a guy that's probably not at Tottenham next season. But yeah, so those were some interesting choices. I think that's a fun category. So who do we think? I think Keagan might have nailed it with Spence, but also Brennan becoming the leading scorer. I don't know if you can get much more of a breakout than that. So
I think that based off expectation, like I don't think it would have been a crazy take at the beginning of the season to say like Spence doesn't play a single minute this season, and like or Spence is sold like in January.
Out, like I would have thought he got loaned out to like Parma or some shit.
He did have a really good preseason. There's a little bit of hype, but yeah, didn't foresee this at all. Like what actually happened.
Was that this summer when that article came out where Ange praised Spence, or was that last summer where he was like he's working hard and he's clearly trying to make an impression? I can't remember if that was this summer.
This summer, he had a great preseason, and then he followed it up with like that goal against Coventry, and then ball rolling a little bit. But yeah, so I think Spence, Brennan, those are probably the top two. I'd probably lean Spence, but Brennan, 18 goals. I mean, can't say much more.
I'm not just saying this because I picked Brennan. I think it's an interesting exercise in thought, we could say, but I think both of them broke out in like their own way. I think Johnson obviously broke out in the sense that he was our leading scorer, and that's massive for somebody who was up against all the vitriol and the price tag and blah, blah, blah. And again, I personally think when we look at Brennan, there's a conversation around how talented he is, but I think it's more of how technical he is, right? I think in the modern day, we expect wingers to be very technical players. That's not Brennan. So Brennan could be much better at his position, but I think he's a good footballer. And up against the price tag, up against him having to delete social media, all that, right? Being our leading scorer is a breakout in its own, but then you look at Spence and he broke out in the sense that he broke his way into the first team and became a really important part of the first team. Now, I think we learned at the end of the season that a fully fit and functioning Poro and Udogie is always the partnership, right? But Spence made it really hard to not put him on the team sheet. So I do lean Spence, but I think both probably broke out in their own sense.
I agree. I totally agree.
I mean, would it be repetitive to like also say Birdwell for this category? I think like
I mean that's valid.
Yeah. It's a good shout.
That's definitely a top three there. I feel like in terms of breakouts, like we didn't see, I mean, really much else besides those players. I mean, yeah.
I agree.
I mean, Brandon Austin was a firecracker. So
massive break.
Played his role in the Europa League too.
He after 10 long years at the club, he got his first match. So that's an ultimate break. What is that? When Geno Smith won the NFL Comeback Player of the Award, and everyone's like, "What did he come back from? Sucking?"
Yeah,
that's Brandon Austin.
I think we're also like low key forgetting like Spence wasn't even in the Europa League squad. Like at the beginning.
That was fucking insane, dude. Oh my God.
It worked. We won the competition, so whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, we can move on to dampen our spirits a little bit. We have biggest disappointment. Chang and I were aligned on this one. We had Pop Sar. I don't think you could call it a disappointment. I mean, I don't know if he had a better season than last year, but like he started the final, played really well, I thought.
I think
Vicario, you know, it's another one where I think that we should sell the guy. So I think that was a really good shout, but the trophy makes it so hard because Scott had Basuma. So we have Sar, Basuma, and Vicario, and I don't know if we can categorize any of those players as being the disappointment this year. So who do you guys think, like off the top of your head, was like disappointing?
It's still Basuma for me.
Hot take, Solanke. I feel like
I was gonna say Solanke.
We kind of I think I'm not sure what the consensus was on the first episode, but I think after signing him, we did say like we expected, I think low-key like a 20-goal season in the
we did that.
Yeah.
I think that was like the benchmark for us saying he had a good season. And I think like obviously we saw glimpses. He's like a good ball carrier, etc. Like he holds the ball up well. But like I think we'd be in agreement to say that we did expect a little bit more, especially on the goal scoring side. So
yeah, for me it was probably Poro. Like he was so bad for so much of the season. He kind of papered over those cracks at the end of the season, which all these guys did. So it's hard, but this might be unfair. I think my definitive answer is Archie Gray, to be honest. In the midfield, like I was so disappointed. I know he's so young, so that's really harsh on him. But
yeah, I think that's just because like he's your boy, and we all wanted him to be.
I want him to be good so bad,
and so I think it hurts us when we see him in the midfield, and we're all like, "Oh shit, bro! Like you're making us look pretty bad on the pod." But I don't know. He was so good at center back.
He was quite good.
We sucked. We were awful, but like he did a good job. And
Dragicevic, does he count, or is he just so bad that it doesn't even matter?
Dude,
I didn't expect anything from him, to be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna say we didn't have any expectations. I don't think so. We weren't disappointed.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this category is like I said, yeah, it's still Basuma for me, but Basuma like was a rock in the semifinals and the final of the Europa League. We can say Porro was a rock in the semifinals and finals of the Europa League. So like kind of what I'm getting at is I think every fucking player on this team was super disappointing at some point this season.
Yeah.
Everybody, dude. There's not one single person. Even Kulusevski was Kulusevski low-key carried us, and we'll get to that. But like he was disappointing too for a period. So I think this category is a tough one.
I would throw in Sonny to this category, honestly. Like
you could.
It's hard because of all like of how sentimental I am and how much I loved and how much I literally was weeping watching him lift the trophy. But like he was not that good for like 80% of the season.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
He still had more GA than Kulusevski.
Kulusevski, bro.
That's an in-depth conversation, Kulusevski. We'll get to that. But.
Yeah, so signing of the season, this is a quick one. We all had Dom Solanke. We also all had him for top scorer. So maybe he is the disappointment because we had him for both those things. I don't think he was either. Like, I'd probably go Bergvall signing of the season.
Yeah.
Which I'll be.
Yeah.
Well, when did we sign Bergvall? Because this is another Tottenham thing where I was thinking, did we sign him like a year ago and waited like we did with Pap Sarr?
We signed him last January. So yeah. I mean I still counted it because he
arrived in the summer, yeah. So we can count it as him being signed in the season, I think.
Yeah, I got Bergvall. Yeah, so yeah, we can go through real quick. We all had Dom for top scorer. It was Brennan. Dom was 2 goals off. For top assister, Chang had Bren, Scott had Bren. He only had 4 assists this season, which is kind of shocking considering he had like 9 last season. Keagan had Madison, who had 10, which was second to Sonny, which I had. So I'm going to toot my own horn. I had Sonny.
How many does Son have?
Kulusevski?
No, how many does Son have?
Like Son had 11, one more than Madison. Yeah, so that's what we had. And now for the big one, player of the season, I think we can go off the top of our heads before I reveal what we had before. What do you guys think? We can just go one by one. Who is your guys' player of the season? This is our season review pod. So what do you guys think? Scott?
Kulusevski.
Wait, it's who
like in hindsight, like who is your player of the season? Like right now, who is your player?
Right now, Madison.
Good job,
Robbie.
So you're saying right now, like now that we know what we know?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm the only one that's ever stood up for him in our group chat, but I'm saying Brennan because he's not only did he lead the team, he scored the goal. So I'm saying Brennan.
Yeah.
Keagan?
I'm with Chang. I got Madison.
Yeah, I have Madison too. So we had 3 Madisons, 1 Brennan, 1 Kulusevski. Scott, I don't know. We might have problems after that. But me and Chang both had Romero.
That's a good shout.
He technically won Europa League Player of the Season, so we might. Yeah. Keagan had Dom. You know, our expectations were quite high. I think we recorded this like the day after we signed him. We were so hyped. And then Scott had Porro. So I mean, I don't know. I think Porro or Kulusevski, that's up for debate. Who do you think had a better season? I feel like Porro might have.
Oh, dude, I think Kulusevski, there's a lot of like just again, I really cannot fucking talk today, but I think there's a little bit of like short-term memory with him because he did have a rough like 3 weeks when he came back from injury. But for basically until he went down with an injury, we could not progress the ball without Kulusevski. Anything good that happened was because of Kulusevski. We were like literally our team was night and day with him on and off the pitch. And Romero and Van de Ven are in that as well, right? But I just think Kulusevski quietly carried us through a big portion of this season when we were just really fucking bad. And I hate to think what it would have been like, even in the Europa League, had he not been there. I'm not even sure we win the competition if he wasn't available to get us through the league phase or whatever. So I don't know. Kulusevski's my guy.
Is he going to be ready for preseason?
No, there's no way. I don't know if you listened to the episode where I self-diagnosed him as a Google Doc, but I think he's going to be out till Christmas, to be honest. Like, it's like a bad injury, I think. Like, pretty good.
Yeah, I meant to bring this up in the group chat, but were you guys all aware? Did you notice that he wasn't at the parade because he can't fly, so he didn't get back to London in time, so he missed all of that, which to me is like heartbreaking to hear. But
yeah, until we brought him up just now, I had, like, to be honest, I hadn't thought about Kulusevski in ages, like so long.
Yeah, he was at the final on crutches because he had the surgery in Spain, I believe. But then he couldn't get back to London in time, so he wasn't like he could have just been chilling on the bus, not having to move. But yeah, he couldn't even get back to London because he can't fly, so he missed the whole thing.
He was just dropping 9 or 10 out of 10 performances for like a month straight, like in the Prem, in the Europa League. Like, he was so good. Like, he was getting like national wide like recognition for being like one of the best creators in the world for like a month, and then obviously like injuries and things.
Yeah. Well, remember that stat back in January where it was like Porro, Kulusevski, Archie Gray, and maybe someone else were the top 4 most minutes played in all of Europe.
Yeah,
because, like it was like Tottenham had the top 4 players because they had to play every single game because we had no one else.
Yeah, no, Kulusevski for a little bit was like actually unplayable, and I think like he was so unplayable that I actually gave him his flowers. So that's how you know he was playing good. And James Lawrence Alcott actually, like, this was after I think like the United game. He said his dark horse Premier League player this season was actually Kulusevski, which is a little bit mental if you really think about it. Like, that's how good he was back then. And I think whenever I think about Kulusevski, I think about this one like data plot where it's like progressive ball carries per 90 versus successful ball carries per 90. And he's just like at the top right. Like, he's somewhere like,
yeah,
like, there's no one close to him. But I don't know. I've never been a Kulusevski advocate except for that little purple patch. So I don't know if I could justify calling him our player this season.
Can you show it to us for more than like a couple months? Like, it's been how many years of this guy now? 3 or 4? And like, for a lot of it, he's been like just not that good. I think it's a really interesting conversation going into this summer.
Yeah,
dude, Kulusevski's like positionless, which is
that's what. Yeah, I was gonna say. Not only has he's been under so many managers that don't know what to do with him, and I don't know if there's an answer of what to do with him. I'm not saying I know either, but with Conte didn't know what to do with him, and then Ange has moved him around multiple times, and whatever. So yeah, I think he doesn't really know what he's good at either.
I think his best position is when he plays with Matters as kind of like dual like creative 8s.
Yeah,
and like, and I think that Bergvall's better at that than him. So like, I just like don't really know where I see him next season. Or Bergvall definitely has the potential to be better than him.
Bergvall is good, dude.
We low-key saw like the Madison Kulu pivot, and then Ange just took it away from us like right after.
Even after Kulu came back, like, he was injured. But, like, it was so obvious, even if he was healthy, that if we were starting the final with everyone, it was going to be Bentancur, Bergvall, and Madison. Like,
I agree.
That was just what it was. So it begs the question, like, is he someone we're going to sell? Like, obviously that hasn't been linked anywhere. Like, we need depth, etc. But he's too injured to sell. But his contract, he's not getting younger. He's still only 25, but I don't know, like, this injury could, I don't know. I'm kind of more leaning towards, like, we could sell him and bring in a guy like Eze or like Xavi Simons, and now we're
selling
things. So, yeah.
What do you say, Keagan?
How much could you sell him for right now?
I can pull up the transfer market value, but he's injured right now, so it's
probably
probably
35 to 40. Probably 35 maybe.
35, 40 is fair.
I would take 25 for him. Is that like egregious?
That's kind of egregious. I feel like he's too good for 25.
25,
he's like a true 10. Like
40 for Archie Gray.
Dude, he's not English, bro. Like, I don't think he really goes for that much.
That's why I think 35.
His market value is $50 million.
35.
What do we think about that? I'd take
He's
50.
not worth it.
Oh, 50? I'd drive him there myself, dude. Like,
yeah. I mean, I also kind of want to bring up Brennan. Chang, I know you got a dip. Like, Scott, Robbie, this might hurt you guys, but I think a lot of us think that, like, his value is never higher than right now. Like, it's never going to be higher for his entire career than it is right now. So
I literally get a Brennan, like, hate rant for a second, and then I gotta go. But,
go for it.
Like, I just don't see him, like, he'll never be our starting right wing. I think, like, if we could recuperate like 35 mil for him, like right now, I'd probably sell him. Like, he's just gonna hold bench, bro. Like, if you want to see Brendan Johnson starting at right wing in the Champions League, bro, like, you're high. Like, there is absolutely no way I'd like see him on a world competition like this, dude. It's like, I don't know, dude. Like, thank you for the goals, thank you for the memories, but like, dude, if the right big, I'd let
I think Scott and I are both, as Brennan admirers, are both on record by saying the ultimate scenario is Brendan Johnson comes on 60 minutes into a match. Like, that's where we would prefer to see him. So I agree with you. He is, if we can get a stud right winger, absolutely. Like, I don't think Brennan is, but like, I think in a dream world next season, it's like Son and Brennan substituted on 65 minutes or, something like that, and give him the second run on the game.
Yeah, I agree with that take. I just think just in this current moment, I don't know if there's a better time to sell a player that I've seen.
Would you sell him for Turkey? Like you sell him for 35 million and you buy Turkey?
Yes. Are you kidding? Have you seen that guy's Instagram videos, bro? Like, Brennan would have a stroke even trying to like recreate what he's doing out there on the pitch.
Bro, imagine Brennan in his backyard trying to do a rainbow flick, bro. Anyways, I gotta go. I'll see y'all. Thank you for having me again. Take care. Yeah.
Peace.
I'm gonna have to take off as well, everybody, but I think we should pivot and do another full transfer pod here soon as we get more rumors in. I'd love to be off for that. But come on, you Spurs. It's good to be here.
Come on, you Spurs.
Yeah, so I think we should sell Brennan and Kulusevski.
I can understand the Brennan piece of it all. No, I think he's great depth, and I think we just talked about how bringing depth into Spurs can be challenging. So I don't see a world where we get enough for him to not be good depth to have around, especially against tired legs. But I understand it. I think Kulusevski, I just think he's so talented. I think if he went to City, for example, I think he'd be a standout player of the season across the Premier League. I think he would just do bits at City in their system. I think he's a true 10, honestly. I think that's his best position. We don't really use a true 10. So I think having just said he's positionless, I think there is a world where if we move forward with Ange, you talk about the asset there and what you can do with it. Now, I think if Inzaghi were to come in, I think he's tailor-made for Inzaghi's 3-5-2. But yeah, I would just hate to see us walk away from such a talented, just technically gifted player, which we don't have very many of right now.
Yeah, and you guys know I'm on record as a pure Scandinavian supporter. I love my Swedes. But I agree with Max. But the caveat being, if we sell Brennan and Kulu, those guys we bring in better be 2 world-class players. We can't buy just another run-of-the-mill we need to buy top-tier names to bring in, and otherwise it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and believe me, I would love to buy top-tier wingers and sell Brennan in a heartbeat. I'm just thinking pragmatically, are we going to be able to replace the depth that Brendan Johnson could provide? I don't know.
But do you think we should target wingers? Because it's just we need wingers. I feel like everyone thinks that, but then when you actually go through and you're like, oh, but Odebear is coming up, and Mikey Moore is coming up, and Tell is here, and then we also have Brennan, and then I mean that's a good problem to have, but I feel like it gets to a point where like we're gonna lose Mikey Moore to Dortmund if he doesn't get minutes next season, and I just think that like Brennan maybe is the odd man out / played so well that almost like helped us out because now his value is probably the highest out of all those guys, even though he may not be the most talented, which is a good scenario to have if you're running the team. But also I'd love to keep him if we can. I just don't know. There's just going to be a lot of younger players, and I think we're still going to target wingers. And I mean, Leroy Sané, like I'd take him for sure on a free. That's a great piece of business, I think. But the one link that really I was like, wow, like it was like a credible link. I think Gary Jacob, the Athletic, that with, I don't know. He said like Tottenham interested in Xavi Simons. When I saw that, I was like, wow, like that is like a real life, like world class player. Like we haven't signed a player like Xavi Simons. I don't know if we've ever signed a player like Xavi Simons. Like that, he is so fucking. That would be insane if we actually signed him. And I feel like there's no way we sign him without selling someone like as good, like a Kulusevski, like Robbie said. So,
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think midfielders right now, the best like crop of young midfielders, I think obviously Pedri from Barcelona is number one.
Yeah, we should probably sign him.
Yeah, right. I think it's Pedri. Then I think it's probably João Neves, then probably Vitinha, and then probably Xavi Simmons or Xavi Simons.
It's Jude second.
Oh, okay, Jude for sure. I don't think of him as like a young player, but he is. So thank you.
Yeah, he's like 20.
Yeah, exactly. It's just insane, dude. He'll win a Ballon d'Or. It's going to be Jude Bellingham and Lamine Yamal just going at it for a while. I think we'll see, but yeah, Xavi Simons would be awesome. We'll probably wrap up here shortly. We're at an hour and 12 minutes at this point.
To be in that top 3.
All right, Musiala as well. All right, man. I'm gonna have to rethink this list. You're throwing some good wrenches into it. But yeah, I think the last thing I want to do here, and we need to wrap, but I think we're going to do another episode shortly to the listener. It's going to be a full, thorough transfer pod. We'll do that probably within the next week. I think we also want to talk a little bit about our Super Cup opponent, which we'll learn tomorrow, as we said earlier. But let's all really quick just rank the order of importance when it comes to positions that we need to sign. We'll wrap the pod. We're just going to give our order. We're not going to talk about who we think that should be. And then we'll wrap the pod and we'll take it into the transfer show. I'll start quick. I think left center back. Actually, I back up for a second. I think 6 is the most important. Then I think a left center back. Then I think a winger to play right wing, and then I think a left back probably after that. It's tough because I think striker somewhere in the mix too. But again, I'll recap. 6, left center back, winger, left back is my order of importance this window. Max, what about you?
Yeah, 6 is 1. I think secondly, winger for me. 3rd, left center back. 4th, right back, because I think Spence is better at left back.
Okay. So we're saying the same thing, though, I think you and I.
Yeah. And then lastly, I'd say striker. I'd say striker over 10. But the 10 we signed could be a better player than the striker we signed. But I think in terms of if we're selling Richarlison, then it's striker. If we're selling like a midfielder, then it's 10. But I think we're more likely to sell Richarlison. So I'll go striker 5th.
Word. Robbie?
Yeah, I think 6, easy number 1. I think center back, I guess, holding my breath on what happens with Romero. So it might end up being right center back. But either or. I don't know. This is something we'll talk about in the transfer thing, but like, I don't know. I think the elephant in the room is like areas of improvement might be like an area to me that is super easy improve. And again, this is no slight against him, but like what if we exchange Son for a 28-year-old proven winger or a 27-year-old? From what I saw today, Saudi Arabia is calling about Son. Don't know if he wants to go there. Don't know if he would have a choice, frankly. But I don't know. I just we do have a good crop of young wingers, as we established, but thinking about a proven, ready-made winger, and maybe we can have both. Maybe there's a world we have Sane and Son. I don't know. But then to your point, we kind of harm the development of some of the younger guys. But I guess I'd go winger, third. And then, any fullback position, I guess, who knows which side matters more important of where we put Spence, whatever. But I think we need an elite winger. And I don't know if maybe an elite winger is Son just playing less and being fresher on his legs next year. Or maybe it's we make a big splash.
Yeah. For me, I feel like I haven't kind of entertained the selling Son conversation, because in my mind, he's already a bench player. After that final, to me, he's already a bench player for us. So I'm hoping that that winger, is a new player, or it's Tell and we sign a new right winger, and then we have Tell, Solanke, and another really good player. That would be sick with Son and Brennan off the bench. That would be some solid depth, including Odebear and more in that conversation, although they're much less developed than Tell is so far.
Low-key, the interesting thing, and maybe this will be the last thing we say, but the interesting thing about striker is I think you only need to get through one more season, and then I think Big Papa Harry Kane comes back to lead the line for Spurs. So I just think we need to see one more season of Dom. Love for him to be flanked by Tell and somebody like a Sane. But we're going to talk about that later. We may even talk about Harry Kane a little bit. But yeah, it's been good, fellas. Like we said, listeners, sometime in the next week, we'll drop a big, thorough transfer episode. We're going to start to break all this down. And probably you're going to hear the three of us talking about transfer nonsense for the next, 6 to 8 weeks. So buckle up. There's going to be a lot of information that flows. And we'll come to y'all with at least weekly episodes. But for myself, for Max, for Robbie, for Keagan, for Chang, for Steve, for everybody at Seattle Spurs, we appreciate everybody who's been rocking with us for the last hour and 16 minutes. Make sure you do follow the pod. We're at Lilywhite on all social media platforms. Follow Seattle Spurs. We are at Seattle Spurs on all social media platforms. Get down to one of the pubs up in Finney Ridge, the OG home. We are at the Wits End. And down in Puyallup, we are at both Cascades, which is our primary home at the moment, and Rainier Growlers when Cascades is not able to host. If you follow Seattle Spurs, you're going to get all kinds of information around when we're open for match parties, viewing parties, all of that. Also, sign up for Seattle Spurs Gmail. That will also get you all of this information that I'm talking about, plus some. If you email seattlespurs@gmail.com, we'll put you on the mailing list. You're going to get a weekly or bi-weekly or whatever it is email. It's going to go over Spurs content, Spurs information, most importantly, watch parties, who's open for what matches, holiday parties, all that good stuff. But it's kind of your one-stop shop if you're Seattle Spurs. So make sure you shoot the email to, again, seattlespurs@gmail.com. We'll get you on the list. But we appreciate everybody. Europa League champions, going to keep saying that for a very long time. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.